Hey tax students, this is your teacher Roy with a video showing you how to prepare tax returns using fillable PDF files. What you're looking at is our Accounting 137 Laulima homepage, and here off to the left side are Laulima tools, including one called Tax Forms PDFs. So if you click on it, it'll show you this listing of forms for 2018, which our textbook is based on, versus the current year 2019. So most assignments will use this left column, but maybe whenever possible, maybe we'll do both 2018 and 19 and maybe compare the results. So if you identify the form or the instructions or the schedule you want to download, just click on the link. Here, this one below here. This is the 1040 form. So before you fill in the fields here, you have to download the form here using this download button, and then open up the file in Adobe Reader. If you try to fill in the form here, the contents will not be saved. Maybe you'll be able to print out the filled in form, but if you want to make any changes, the changes won't be saved if you close out this tab. Again, you can see this form here is opened up in one of the tabs of my browser. Okay, so let me download this form, and I'm going to probably save it someplace it's easy for me to find here on my desktop. You can notice that it's the 2018 version of Form 1040. So if I look at my desktop, I don't think you can see my desktop, but let me open up the file from my desktop. And where is it? Here you go. So now it's opened up in the Acrobat program. I have this Acrobat Pro version of the Adobe Reader, yeah? So it'll look a little bit different than what you have. You should be able to use the free Acrobat Reader program. So now whatever I fill in the fields here, I'll be able to save it and then open up later on to make any adjustments. Whenever we do a tax project, be it fill in tax returns or just specific forms or schedules, this is what you're going to submit at our Laulima's site. Okay, so let's go through an example that maybe you've already covered in the previous tax class. So let's take a look at one of the problems at the end of chapter 1. So let me split my screen here. This again, what you see in the background is the 1040 in the web browser. Again, you don't use that. You have to download the form and open it up in Acrobat Reader. So here is my textbook. So if I go to chapter 1 and the contents, usually at the end you have the problems at the end of the chapter, and most of the problems that for tax returns are in this comprehensive group 4. And you're given some assumptions to make here at the beginning of this group whenever you do tax returns. Let's take a look at this Patty Banyan information. Okay, we're told she is single. That's her filing status. So let's make this form bigger here. Okay, so at the top of the form, you can see the different filing statuses, all 5. So we check off her single filing status, and let's enter her name. Typically, when you prepare a tax return for someone you don't know, to make sure you have the correct name and social security number, you should be looking at their social security card, not just necessarily the tax document here with her name and social security. If it's one letter off in her name or one digit different than the social security number, which the Social Security Administration has on their database, when the tax return is filed, it's going to be rejected. Yes, you got to make sure it's real accurate here. So we're assuming that. Let's enter her name, Patty Banyan. So I can do that, by if you have a digital copy, just select and then copy, and then in here I can paste her name. Here, let me erase her last name. And to move to the next field, I just can tab on my keyboard and then paste and just keep her last name in the last name field. Her social security number, I'll just type that in, 466331234. And there's no spouse here, so for the next line, we're assuming she cannot be claimed as a dependent. She's not over age 65 when we filed this return for the year 2018. She's not blind. We're assuming she's covered with health insurance for the full year. This question here is going to disappear, this health insurance coverage question. For 2018 and a couple previous years, if you were not covered for health insurance for the whole year, you may be subject to something called the shared responsibility payment. And that disappears for 2019. So they're not going to be asking this question for 2019 returns. Let's enter her address. So let's see if I can copy and paste that also here. I can't see the whole address here. So select, copy, and paste. Let's backspace off that comma. In Houston, Texas. Okay, I missed that last digit. Whenever you have, you can see here, I need to scroll, to go to the left or right. One way to move maybe a little faster is using your mouse, holding down the shift key and using the scroll wheel. Yeah, scroll wheel typically will move you up or down, but shift scroll wheel will move you from left to right. She doesn't have any dependents. She eventually is going to sign and date the return when we give it to her. Her occupation, she works at a restaurant, but she parks cars. She's a parking lot attendant. Whenever you have an employee of a business that has typically received tips, if handled correctly, the employee is supposed to report, in this case Patty, report her tip income to her employer, so the employer can include the correct amount of income on the W-2 and withhold the correct amount of taxes for the year. We're assuming that's the case here, so we're not going to add any more income than what's given to us. Of course, in real life, you got to ask the taxpayer if they had received tip income and how much, and we got to calculate the taxes on that. So for her occupation, parking attendant. Again, just by knowing the taxpayer's occupation, you kind of expect there's going to be certain types of income and maybe deductions. Okay, now at the very bottom here of the first page, we as professionals would have to fill in this preparer section. Now, if you're doing this for free, you would leave it blank, especially if you're doing it for family and friends and not getting compensated, which we're assuming is our case here. So the only income we're reporting here on page 2 is this line 1 for the wages, and that's this 19,000. This graphic is not showing everything, so I need to expand it. But anyway, let me fill in the 19,800 here in line 1. And then, because we don't have any other income, let me expand this whole screen here. The subtotal here in line 6, let me grab this number and copy it, Control C, and we're going to paste it in line 6, and then AGI, adjusted gross income, since we don't have any deductions on the Schedule 1 or other income to add in. Line 7 should be the same for AGI. The standard deduction, if you look off to the left side of this 1040 form, you can see the common standard deduction amounts based upon the taxpayer's filing status. So in our case, this single filing status should result in a $12,000 amount of standard deduction. And we subtract that out from this AGI. Also, we subtract out any qualified business income deduction, which you should have maybe seen a little bit in the previous accounting tax class, but we'll cover it again this semester later on. Line 8 minus line 9, line 7 minus 8 and 9 should equal line 10, our taxable income. So that should be, let's see, 7,800 as taxable income. And we would look this up in the tax table. So let's go back to our website here, Laulima. No, this listing here. Okay, so we opened up this form here, the 1040 form. So let's take a look at the instructions here for the 1040. And of course, the tax tables would be pages and pages of numbers. So scrolling through the list here, we're looking for 7,800. And let's zoom in here. 7,800 appears twice. You see it over here in this row and over here. So you always got to make sure to read the top of the columns. So the amount is at least that amount, 7,800, but less than. Okay, 7,800 is not less than 7,800. So you don't use this first one over here. Use the second row. So we go across the taxable income row here, and we stop under her filing status column. That's single. So where the taxable income row intersects with the filing status column, here's our tax, this 783. So I've copied that. And again, I don't fill in this form here yet. This is the one on my web browser. I have to fill in the one that's in my Adobe Reader. So the tax goes here in 11A. And again, no other taxes in this row, so the same amount in this right-hand column. We don't have any credits here for children or other dependents. So the tax is the same here in line 13. No other taxes in 14. So total tax is the same in line 15. Now we need to get the amount of taxes withheld from her wages. So that's on the W-2 form. So where is that here? So again, in my book, here I need to widen the screen. So again, here's the wages, and here's the federal income taxes withheld, 1280. So let's put that into our form. 1280. And we don't have any credits in line 17. So line 18 is the same, 1280. Let's see, line 18 is larger than 15. The taxes withheld is larger than the tax for the year, the tax liability. So the difference here of 497 is the amount overpaid, and we're going to assume that's going to be refunded to her here in line 20A. Now, if the taxpayer has to make what we call estimated tax payments for next year, what we would do is take this amount or take whatever overpayment here and use part of it or maybe all of it and apply to next year's estimated tax payments. So she's wouldn't then receive the refund and then immediately have to pay out the at least the first quarter's payment. Yeah. But in our case, we assume the whole thing is going to be refunded. Make sure you always save your work. Here I'm clicking on the save button. Notice how it dims out. Yeah, after I click on it, that means it's saved. And then if I make any kind of changes like this, you'll know that it needs to now be saved. Yeah. So let me take that off here and then resave it. Okay, so make sure you know what you're saving. Another thing, where it's being saved. Another thing too, what I may want you to do is kind of maybe customize it a little bit and maybe possibly change it with your name, yeah, to make it more unique. So now this is a file that I have saved on my desktop or whatever folder you want to save it to that should be uploaded to our Laulima tax assignment folder whenever we have a tax return assignment to turn in. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure you email me.